which I think every single one of us does. So, addicted is the word that I use to describe it. So my name is Garrett Fuller. I work at MMORPG.com. I've been there for years. I am very, very lucky, as I said in the last panel, to know guys like this who work on the games that you and all of us, and even them, play. And you know, I'm really thankful to have such a cool panel to put together. If you like action RPGs, you've played them over the years, I want to come up with a clear definition of what it is today. There's so many different hybrids of it. So many, yeah, good work. Right, good luck. But I think we can, and I think it's going to be a cool panel. And we'll try to do a lot of fan questions too. So last time we didn't get as many in. This time we'll try to spend more time on it. So let me introduce everybody. And I'm getting really nervous getting Adam's name correctly. So, so to my right is Adam Hetenyi. I got it, Adam Hetenyi. Adam works for Triumph Worlds. It's a company we know very well. He's working on Trove right now, which is a lot of fun to check out.
It is very cool.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
Next to him is David Brevik. Dave is the CEO over at Gazillion. He's working on Marvel Heroes. I have to throw it in. Dave also made Diablo. Yeah! Which violently helped me get over a college breakup, which was actually kind of cool. It was really fun. Next to him is James Schmalz from Digital Extremes. James is working on Warface, so give it up for James. Warface. Sorry about that. Please forgive. Oh, God of Games. Awesome. So we'll dive right in, which really is the evolution of the action RPG genre. This genre has destroyed gaming for me because I have struggled with turn-based games for eons now, and I almost can never go back to it because I love the fast-paced action that these games bring to the table. So why don't we go down, and we'll start with you, Adam, and talk a little bit about your experience in the genre, coming up as a gamer, and then how it led to you being a developer on Trove.
Sure, sounds good. Can you guys hear me, by the way? I can't hear this. Yeah? Good? All right. Yeah, so like you said, my name is Adam. I work on Trove. I started playing games when I was yay high. My dad worked at McDonnell Douglas. He would bring a computer home on the weekends sometimes. We would play Missile Command, and it was great. One of the first games I got into really seriously was this gentleman's product, Diablo, which is super good. That was one of the early games that I was theory crafting in. My brother and I would take a piece of printer paper and draw up the character sheet and then like fantasize our items on the character sheet and then store it in a binder. So thanks for that. Some years later I started playing EverQuest, which was a very important part of my life. I went from EverQuest into WoW. Somewhere in between there I got hired by Sigil Games Online to work on Vanguard, which was a bit of a cluster. After that I was lucky enough to get picked up by Sony. I worked there for a while. My younger brother, who I mentioned a second ago, is an engineer now, got hired by Triumph, told me, come up dude, well, it's great. So that was about 6 years ago. I worked on Rift as the Dungeon and Raid lead for almost 4 years, and then moved on to Trove after the Storm Legion expansion was released. So that's me.
Awesome. No, I was just saying you was very polite about Vanguard and what you said. Oh, yeah. Nothing else.
Did you want me to answer a question, or was it just
No, intros. We'll go to Dave next, and then we'll do questions. So, go ahead, Dave.
My name's David Brevik, and I've been in gaming for a while now. I mean, Diablo, that's not really a secret anymore here, and Diablo 2. And I was president of Blizzard North for 10 years, and helped make Warcraft 3 and started. Then I left and made a new company called Flagship Studios, and we made a product called Hellgate London.
Yeah!
And now the CEO of Gazillion Entertainment, we make Marvel Heroes.
Yeah, James Schmalz. I CEO of Digital Extremes, founder of Digital Extremes. I always like to say I graduated university and actually was fortunate enough to never have a real job because I just went got lucky enough to get into games after university with way back in the day made a game called Epic Pinball, and that kind of led to, if anybody knows the old school shareware stuff. Yeah, and yeah, that kind of rolled into the success of that rolled into me forming Digital Extremes, and we collaborated with Epic Games on Unreal and Unreal Tournament, in 2003, and all those games, and then we kind of split off from them and continued on making shooter games for quite a while until up until just a couple of years ago we got into Warframe. So we've been always very much in the first-person shooter market for games, and Warframe is kind of it is a third-person action shooter game, but with heavy action RPG elements to it, and we didn't have any experience kind of in that area, but the nature of the game and that we wanted it to be free to play online and continuously going on, hopefully forever into the future, it required some of those elements. So it was a big learning curve for us to, we've always been fans of Diablo and the RPG games and all those other great games, and so we had to kind of learn a whole new way to design our game, and so far it's been going pretty good. So we're happy with that progress of Warframe and everything we've learned about making our action RPGs.
Awesome. So I'm going to go skipping one of Jason's questions. Jason wrote some really good questions, but you've already answered the first two. So what I really want to do, and this starts off. You did. Well, we're moving along.
Wait, question one was it? What's your name?
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right.
Jason's laughing.
I'm gonna pass this quest, no problem.
Yeah. We're gonna do a quest, and everybody in the room. That's how you get out. So, but honestly, this is what I started with in the beginning, which is what makes an action RPG in your minds. And I have a pretty good idea, but we'll start with Adam, and we'll go.
Okay. Well, you have both pieces. You have the action and the RPG, right? So action side. Action side, you need to have some amount of like real-time player agency. You need to have an element of skill, probably. Characters players are using their characters to take action second by second. They're not queuing turns, right? The RPG side of it, ongoing progression. You have some sort of an avatar or like a stable of avatars, right? And you're sort of putting yourself into that, and that character, cast of characters, in this sort of more long-term way. Right, so you're building up power over time. You're gaining new mechanics to use or modifying mechanics that you already use. So I think that's really what makes it an RPG.
David, you want to continue?
Yes. It's exactly action RPG used to mean one thing, which was Diablo a long time ago, but I don't think that that's really the case anymore. I think that action RPG stands for any kind of, almost all games at this point. There are so many games that are RPGs and action-oriented that the line's really blurred. So it's a much broader category than it used to be. I still think that there are two views on that. There's some people will say traditionally that action RPGs mean Diablo-like games, and then and some people say action RPGs applies to everything. So I don't know if there's really a right answer.
I'm in that second camp.
Yeah. No, I'm in the first camp.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
Conflict.
Yes.
What a panel.
And so anyway, so what it is today, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I agree with all that as well. I think the prevalence of it these days is any game that you want to have any significant lifespan to almost requires it to have these RPG elements. So I think just that alone causes a huge movement in that direction for games in general.
What I find interesting is I always looked at it as action combat versus turn-based combat, and it was always that simple for me. Right? If you had a turn-based game, you were going down that road. If you had an action game,
wrong room.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying to think of a funny panel to create. It's 1081. But it was that simple. It was the term. In the '90s, you saw the rise of turn-based games, and I played Neverwinter as much as everybody else, and Icewind Dale, and all those games, the old Bioware games. It was always turn-based, team-based. But then, when Diablo came around, it was the fast-paced, holy crap, scared. I will never forget the first time the Butcher came on the screen. It freaked me the hell out. Yeah, good, do it.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Ready?
All right,
3, 2, 1.
everybody. Fresh meat.
Fresh meat.
3, 2, 1.
Fresh meat.
Very nice. And he was this big.
Still terrifying.
But you just saw body parts in the ruins, and you're like, what's that about? What? And then freaking cleaver. And then you got his weapon. How great was that experience? You're like, I just beat a psychopathic huge ogre, and I got his weapon. Come on. But that always defined it for me. So, moving to the next question. I'm sorry, now I'm getting ahead of myself in the story. I guess the next question, which is really interesting, which is how you said the genre's really evolved into everything. But we talked last panel about pricing models. And James, I'll start with you at this point. How has the free-to-play models started to shift and change the action RPG genre with games like Path of Exile?
Sure, yeah, just like I was stating earlier, I think it changes it. Almost all free-to-play, at least on PC and maybe not so much mobile, but because you've got that longer-term play, you want the players to keep coming back. You need to do something to, have progression for their characters, for the players. So you need those RPG elements to create that long-term interest in the game. Otherwise, they'll play it for a few hours and they'll be done, and that's not what you want for a free-to-play game. So it's almost a requirement, I think, pretty much for all free-to-play games to have something along those lines that has the RPG element in it.
Do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's right. I think that both there are the different business models affects the way that you create the game in a lot of ways. If you're going to have a subscription game, slow leveling, so they have to keep getting that subscription once a month, whatever it is, it was a traditional way to go. Free to play, you have to have some sort of long-term goals, keep them coming back, new things all the time, and that changes the way you design and changes the way that you manage the game. And versus like a box sale, where it could be maybe in a lot of ways you want to get away with the shortest experience you can, but still not be a satisfying shorter experience rather than something that lasts 8 hours or something like that. Rather than, and that affects the way you design that, and the way that you level, and the way, etc. So all of these things have massive impacts on not only action RPGs, but the way that you design anything.
Yeah, he's absolutely right about that. Trove is a free-to-play game. We learned a lot converting Rift to free-to-play, and really what we found is that people need value add for their money. They need value add for their money. You can't just gate things behind costs, trap things off until they pay $1. You can't do that crap, right? You have to offer them something for their $1, because they're not giving you $15 a month. They're giving you $1 on Monday, maybe $3 on Thursday. Maybe they splurge on Sunday and they buy a big credit pack for $9 or something. You know what I mean? But it's you need to keep that drip feed of good stuff, right? You can't just assume that what you have out there is good enough. And so, for us, like David just said, we were patching twice a week. We're in alpha, now we're in beta. We can be a little more stable. We're patching once a week, but we're always putting stuff out. Always, always, always. And because we're free to play, we want to have people that jump in for a week now, maybe a week next month. We're okay with people getting bored for a little while, as long as they check us out again and come see, oh, look at all this stuff in the last 6 weeks. I'm going to play for a while now. So that's really a driving philosophy for us. It's just always with the value add, always with more activities, always with more stuff to do. And I think that for a free-to-play game, particularly on PC, you really have to take that approach, or else you're just going to, you're going to lose your audience to somebody that does take that approach. I think it's simple as that.
Cool. I want to get to fan questions in a minute, but I do have 1 or 2 more, which are actually pretty good. I'm looking at this line that Jason wrote for me as moderator, and I want to ask it all the time because I kind of know the answer, but is the PC dead? That's a big question, right? How many people in here still game on a PC? There you go.
There's your answer.
How many people are buying a Steam box in a couple of months? Build your own. See, that's another way to do it. So it's interesting. How many people play action RPGs on a console? You guys do that too? See, I would consider Skyrim an action RPG. So I would, yeah. Skyrim. I would consider Skyrim an action RPG. But I'm curious what your guys' take is, and we can James, we can start with you and come back again. As far as what with this genre specifically, What's the delivery method? Because I also think mobile games, I mean, I had a ball playing the first Dungeon Hunter on my iTouch. I was like, this is awesome. It's a full RPG. And so what is the delivery for this genre? Because you can really encapsulate it in a lot of different ways. So.
The thing that was there before, their bottom line looks kind of ugly now, but they didn't die, right? EverQuest, the game EverQuest I worked on for only a year. I worked on it during its 9th, 10th, and 11th expansions, right? I think they have 19 expansions now, right? If World of Warcraft, the biggest juggernaut that there is, couldn't kill EverQuest, just kill it, right? Then what can kill anything? Right? What can kill anything in an industry as big as PC gaming, console gaming, mobile gaming? There's no way for it to kill. It might like get squished and have to make room for something, but there's never just like a straight end of one thing, beginning of a new thing. That just doesn't happen. That never happens.
I gotta agree. I actually agree. It's really well put. Because I thought for sure. I mean, I played Ultima when it first came out, and I came up through the ranks in Ultima. I had the best time maybe about 2 or 3 months back going into an Ultima.
Yeah, Ultima still exists.
Still exists.
It's a huge amount of work on it. It's very different from what it was. EverQuest is very different from what it was.
Sure.
They just continue, right?
Yeah, they always continue. What I find interesting you guys talked about is this is a question I want to pose to everybody. How many people game on a desktop? All right, it's almost there. How many people have a gaming laptop? See, it's interesting. That's my personal. Where do you think the genre's going? Because even recently with Kickstarter, you saw like Pillars of Eternity is a turn-based RPG, and it's cool. It looks good, and those guys are doing a good job over at City. So that's kind of making a comeback. Obviously, nothing can kill anything. The action RPG is so much fun. Yeah, huge difference. So where do you see the games moving forward? And there's a ton of independent games out too that we're continuing to see get better and better. So where do you see the genre going over the next few years, and what type of games will these guys be playing? So, you want to go back this way? Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
All right. Well, I think in a certain way, we're going to see a bit of a resurgence of something that this gentleman started out, which was procedural generation of content, right? That's something that disappeared for a long time, right? But levels in Diablo and Diablo II they're distinct, right? You really remember the flavor of them, but they're different every time you play through. Right? A modern example, Shadows of Mordor. I'm sure some of you guys have played Shadows of Mordor. It's a fantastically awesome game. The entire Nemesis system is procedurally generated, right? So it's just giant combinatorial lists of attributes, mapped to name, morphologies, mapped to, costumes and weapons and all that, and it rolls up an enemy for you, right? It rolls up an enemy that might take hours or days or weeks for a designer like me to build by hand, and then that enemy would be the same every time once it's been built, right? So in terms of like a development methodology, it's just so strong to build a machine that creates unique and interesting content as opposed to trying to handcraft all that. Because it takes so many people, it costs so much. I think that we're going to see more systems like that, right? Trove, all the terrain is procedural. We're able to do that because it's a voxel-based game. And we'd never be able to build the world. We'd never be able to build it, but because we're using algorithms and we're using math to sculpt it based on certain rules, we're able to get all these different, spaces, biomes, and appearances just from that programmatic approach. So I hope we see more of that in the future. I think it'll allow smaller teams to do more with less, and I think it'll allow bigger teams to concentrate more on their polish and not on slamming in content up until the last second.
Well, that's a good answer. I'm just thinking about that. I think that action RPGs, where is it going? Who knows? Well, I know I have plans, and I know what I would like to do, but I think that this is the first time that I've been working on an action RPG that I'm able to update constantly. And that's something that is new for me, and I really am enjoying that process. I'm actually enjoying that process more than the development process of the initial product. Having the game out there live and running as a service and being able to communicate with the community and work together to create a better game has been nice. Did I give her the stink eye? Because I told her
It's the same one we were.
She was the same. It was the same person coming in.
We're good.
Round 2 there. That was awesome. I don't know what I was talking about now. So anyway,
like updating.
Yeah, I do. I really like updating. So I would like to see more of that, more interaction with the community, with the gamers, being able to make action RPGs in a kind of a live environment, for lack of a better description, is something that I think that I've gotten a lot of satisfaction from, and I would really embrace that in the future, and I would like to see more of that done more often.
Yeah, I totally agree just with what you're saying there. The community, the interaction between the developers and the community in a game, an ongoing game, whether it's free to play or not, but a game that's updated often, having that we just found with Warframe, our connection with the community, our communication with the community really, rings true with them. It really gets them keeps them passionate about the game, updating the game, listening to their feedback. They really feel like they're part of not just the game itself, but the whole ecosystem around the game. So I think, we see that the more we focus on those community efforts and really engaging with our players, I think the more success we see with our game. And I think lots of other games that are doing this updating and having direct communication with the community are going to do more and more of that. So I see that as a big growing part of games in general in the future.
No, I think you're right. I think we have reached the era, and games prove it now, because they're released earlier in alpha and beta phases. I can remember years when I'm working at the site, people would stop me and be like, "Can you get me a beta? Can you get me a beta?" Nobody asks me that question anymore, because betas are out there now. Everybody can get them very quickly. Now it's, can you give me an alpha? That's fine. But my point is your feedback to their development, and vice versa, and the fact that you guys, as all 3 veteran game designers for years, the willingness to listen to your community and make the changes based on that, always builds a better game. I think I equated it to Dungeons and Dragons once. I'm like, how many times in Dungeons and Dragons you finish your session, you turn to your DM, who's like your best friend, and you're like, what the hell were you thinking? Tomb of Horrors, really? We're going to do that this weekend? Like, come on. And you never got to do that in a game. You would buy the game, it would suck, and you're like, all right, I'm going to trade it in, I think. You're like, yeah, we got 30 copies on the shelf. It's $2 right now, so that's all you're getting. You never had that opportunity with communities and with what you guys build. You now have the chance to go, hey, can you fix this? Can you tweak that? And it happens more and more each day, and it's getting better and better, from my experience.
I'd love to react to that as well. Yeah, he's absolutely right. That's a really core part of our experience with Trove, is being really closely connected to the community through Reddit. Now that we're in beta, towards a ton of user-created content. It's been like a tentpole for us. Just because it's a voxel game, we're able to get the tools out to people, and they're able to make stuff that we can put into the game really quickly, which is just fantastic. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of weapons and decorative items that have gone into the game that have been made by people from Reddit. They get an in-game reward for it. They get real-life money credits. So it's like they spent money, but it's put content into the game. Helps us a lot. Helps them. It's fantastic. 10 years ago, any sort of interaction with a developer, especially in an end, was a very rarefied experience, right? If you talk to a GM or something, I was like, "Oh, I'm talking to a GM. That's pretty cool." Or you're in trouble. You're like, "Oh, I'm talking to a GM," right? But you almost never interacted with a developer. If you did for reals, like I'll tell you, I was giddy with excitement whenever I got to actually talk to a dev on a game that I cared a lot about. Just thrilled, right? But today, it's really important that you be out there and be available, because other people are doing it, right? Other teams are doing it, and if you close off and say you're going to do it like last decade, it's going to hurt you, right? So just in terms of basic success or failure, interacting with you guys is really good to do, right? But beyond that, it improves the product just in a number of directions. You're able to get that feedback early. You're not operating on as many assumptions. You get to put in content into your game that you didn't even make, right? So, yeah, we're going to keep going in that direction. I hope we go too far.
Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say? James?
No, that sounds good.
No? Okay, cool. All right, why don't we open it up to you guys? So we'll try to get as many questions in as we can. You can start. Go ahead. Just keep the questions short. That's my only... and loud.
All right.
Short and loud.
I can do that. Have you noticed, with the action RPG genre, that games aren't really aging as well as they used to? Like, they're aging quite a bit faster, because Diablo 2 is still being sold on shelves.
Yeah. That's pretty true.
And something like Sacred 2, which released I think in 2008 or 9, that's not anywhere to be found anymore. Like,
how good is
you
Sacred
noticed
Steel? Was that a good game?
It's up there.
Okay. I missed that one. Sorry, guys.
It was good.
Okay.
I don't know if I mean, this is an impossible question to answer. Really, you know, I got really lucky with Diablo, and that's the reason it's on the store shelf still. You know, that doesn't happen very often. I think that's a 1 in a million kind of chance rather than, you know, the norm. And so I think that games now, they're not on shelves because you digitally download them, and so they'll be available for a lot longer. I would like for it to eventually get to the point where games don't age very much like music. I would like it for music or books or other forms of entertainment that you can go back and you can watch a movie that was made 30 years ago and enjoy it just as much as, well, or almost as much as something today, or listen to music that is as relevant now as it was then. And I would like gaming to get to that point too. We're not quite there. I think that it's because computers are still changing so rapidly, and it's such a new medium and such a new thing that it's impossible for that to really to settle down into a place where we're going to get there. But we will at some point.
James, did you want to?
No, yeah, it is a tough question to answer. I think that totally makes sense. That's a good answer.
Sure. Go ahead.
First of all, you said with action RPGs now, no more don't sort of strategize and said, okay, if I get this guy to go first, then I can follow up with this character who then follow up with that and stuff. Now you have to use some actual skill and say, okay, make sure I got time things right. With the evolution of gaming, do you feel like that now it's going to get to the point where in the game it's not going to matter about what your gear is? Because I always hate the games that you have the gear dependent on. And as much as I'd love to help to and getting all the cool stuff, sooner or later I want to be able to actually see people whose greater skill occurs and has greater impact in the game where I want to be able to see people that do more with less, and therefore I don't need to have this great tier 1 epic item, whatever else, when I can just be the better player and start doing all this stuff. Do you feel like with action RPGs, this is going to occur more because now it's becoming more of a skill-based game where people have to be able to say, yes, I timed this right with this, I've been playing for this one, I'm used to this, or I can sense like this character or this monster, whatever I'm going to do, this next algorithm is going to happen. I know I got to follow it to go with this sort of outcome.
I think that RPGs in general, because of the progression inherent, it's got to occur along a certain vector, right? And one of those vectors is equipment that you acquire. But I definitely dig what you're saying. I think that what games are going to do more and more is sort of like, I don't know if you've played the most recent WoW expansion, Pandaria, but they put in challenge mode dungeons, right? Challenge mode dungeons are like any other dungeon. They're like a heroic mode or whatever, they're just the dungeon, but it tamps all your gear level down to a certain level, right? So whatever gear you had, whether you had super high level or super low level, whatever, it just tamps down. So if you have super high level gear, it drops that down to like eye level, whatever, 190 or something. So that no matter what you have, you're always playing on this exact tune plane, right? Which I think would give you the sort of experience that you're talking about, where it's not based on what you've acquired, it's based on how you play, right? And so there's like a certain you must be this tall and ride, requirement progression. But once you get past that point, it's completely skill-based and performance-based. So I think things like that, challenge modes that like debuff you to a tuned set of values, right? Developer tuned set of values. I think that we're going to see things like that to give you that sort of experience.
Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, you were saying before about defining RPGs and how different people have different views and having different views. How does that impact your creation of action RPGs and with the whole monetization now, where you will have to pay money sometimes to increase your value, whether as you would just grind? Like, how does that affect the production?
Yeah, that's it's on Warframe. Those issues are things that we stressed over for weeks and weeks. It's really hard to come up with that balance because we want it above all to feel fair to the player. You don't want them to feel like they're just grinding forever for nothing, for something that wasn't worth it, and that we're forcing them to pay. So it's a real tough balance that we struggle with all the time, because you want your community to be happy, but you still on the monetization side want to make enough to support the development of the game. So we've all played mobile games where they're super aggressive on the monetization and it just pisses you off, right? So that's the last thing you want for your community in a community-based PC free-to-play game. So it's agonizing. It's just you want to walk that kind of fine line where you're making everybody feel happy and they're having fun, they're enjoying the community of the game, and they're not having to pay anything. But you certainly want to have some encouragement. So it's tough. It's tough. We agonize over it all the time.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
In later years, I think one of the things that makes Diablo 2 stand the test of time is that we don't see complicated build trees, tech trees, like in modern RPGs. Do you think we'll ever see a resurgence of it, or is the element of the action element that becomes more and more predominant in the action RPG actually wiped it out in favor for more skill-based gaming?
It's a good question. So in case you didn't hear, he's talking about the skill trees, and you used to have these very complex skill trees. Is the action element actually going to end the idea of skill trees, or are they coming back? I think I got it right. Is that, yeah, so go ahead, whoever wants to.
I sure would like to see some. I sort of think that they are a barrier to entry for casual users, and while I personally really do like kind of pouring through those sets of prerequisites and how to maximize my return on time or choice or whatever, I think a lot of people are kind of turned off by that. But then like Diablo 3 has a lot of stuff in it. It's not a tree, but every character has however many versions of every ability, so that can also be kind of off-putting. I don't know. I'd like to see more trees like that. I sort of doubt that we'll see them like that very often in the future.
I think that we have sort of trees in the not really trees, but we have a map of skills in Marvel Heroes, and it's funny because I've observed many different people playing not only Diablo but also Marvel Heroes and other games, and I find that there are two types of players, just two. All right, maybe a little more. But largely, there are two types. One is the type that says, I don't know what I'm going to do with these points, so I'm not going to spend them at all. Somebody just please tell me how to spend these damn points, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm just going to go on the internet and then look up, oh, this is the right build, and then you have the other people that are the experimenters, right? And they go out and they're like, oh, I want to try this out and try this out. You don't want to get those people, the experimenters, which is really one of the reasons that we're making these trees. You don't want to turn them off, so you've got to make sure that there is an easy way for them to reset their points. It doesn't have to be the easiest way in the world, but some way that allows them to reset their points and experiment at least once a day or something.
Sure. I think it's a tricky balance. Like, skill trees have always been a tricky balance. I remember opening up skill trees and just seeing this spreadsheet come on my screen. I'm like, forget it. I don't even look twice. I don't know where to go. There is a fine line for skill trees. I love seeing a skill tree, and I love knowing my characters can get to a certain point, but it's a balance, definitely. So we'll go to this side of the room, some of you in the back. Go ahead.
What are your feelings on MOBAs? Do they count as an action RPG?
Oh boy.
What separates them from that genre?
These are RPG players. MOBA? No, I'm kidding. We were just talking about Heroes of the Storm outside, actually. What do you guys think? You can talk about this. So,
I think that you probably could consider it that way. Session-based action RPG, I suppose. Competitive, session-based, ladder-based action RPG.
but turn that into an acronym.
Yeah.
I know, right? That was good, though, Adam. That was good.
But within the bounds of a single game, you still have that's both of those elements, or not both of those, all those elements that go into an action RPG. You have it's real time, it's skill based, decision based. You're progressing, putting points into things, getting last hits, getting gold, and so on. Right? So you have progression. It's just not permanent progression. It's not avatar progression. But you have your account, right? So while in a given session your character goes back to 1 in another game when you play, you know, Timu again or whatever, your account has gotten the XP, has gotten points, maybe you unlock a skin or something. So you still get an element, I think, of long-term progression and sort of sense of putting yourself into an avatar, even though you're playing all different characters.
For me, I think they're just two separate things, in my opinion. I just think that for me, it comes down to the line of the permanence on the character basis, right? That because MOBA, you don't level up and stay leveled up with a MOBA character. I just feel like that's the line for me. That I feel like in order for it to be considered an action RPG, it has to have that permanence on a character level.
So if somebody like hacked apart Diablo 2 and made a Diablo 2 MOBA, you'd say no, definitely not an action RPG. Or do you think
That's
it
right.
might be? Yeah, okay.
Can someone do that? No.
Accepted.
Oh wait,
I would play that game.
I know.
It's cool.